Hello, and welcome back to Esports News UK here on YouTube. One of the best places to go, if not the best place to go for all your esports news coming out from our little island. Today's video, we will be discussing the London Spitfire and their future as we head into Overwatch 2. That's right, the first 4 seasons of the Overwatch League are done. The era of Overwatch 1 and 6v6 has come to a close. Now, it's time to look ahead to a new era with 5v5 and Overwatch 2 looming on the horizon. For the UK-based team, the London Spitfire, the first 4 seasons were turbulent. A superstar Korean powerhouse in the first 2 seasons, then a sharp rotation to a younger, unproven Korean roster in Season 3. And again, a diversion, a redirection, a change of flight path. That Korean roster was dropped, and then in their place, a full European roster under the guidance of UK orgs and GM Nuki. Nuki's mission statement as the GM of the Spitfire was simple: nurture and develop premier European talent on a European team. Now, at the time of recording this video, the Spitfire's hangar is all but empty as only Shax and Sparker remain from the original roster. This means a lot of empty seats. Seats that need replacing. Seats that are likely filled by talent from European contenders. Admittedly though, I'm not an avid watcher nor am I an expert on the pool of talent in the European region of Overwatch. I do, however, know a person that gets a front row seat to Europe's finest each month. Joining me for this video is Legday, a caster for European contenders who streams on twitch.tv at Legday Gaming. If you ever want to see me in his games live in ranked, go drop him a follow. So before we get on to talk of the Spitfire and Tier 2, I'm going to hand it over to the interview portion where I'll let Legs introduce himself, and then we'll get into talking about everything from Tier 2 to Spitfire history to God knows Overwatch 2 and everything else on the horizon. If you're new around here, feel free to drop a follow, a like, and a comment. Anything is appreciated for the algorithm. And I'll leave you a question for the comment section as well. Tell me your favourite Spitfire player ever and what you're excited the most for the Spitfire heading into Overwatch 2. Alright, enough stalling, enough waiting, let's get into the interview. We will start with question 1, as all good interviews go. So, in your opinion, obviously you were an avid Overwatch League watcher as well during your time as Tier 2. Definitely many a Spitfire fan stream hoping they'd get that first win, and they finally managed to get that, I believe, that one win that came against Vancouver. Where do you think that, fundamentally, where do you think the Spitfire fell down this year? Not in the sense of where to point fingers, but like, what do you think went wrong systematically for them?
I think that they were trying to lift the success that British Hurricane had in Contenders in 2020 into Overwatch League, but they kind of lost too many pieces along the way to do that. They hired a new head coach who didn't seem to have a prior relationship with the team. They lost Daned, quite importantly, who was a real punching weight behind their DPS line, and they kind of they pasted over the cracks with Blase and Hybrid, who did have the kind of hero pool to fill what Daned was doing, but I don't think it really was as effective. And of course, we also had a lack of Sparker for the first couple of months as well, and that really affected us. I think that Sparker and Daned were part of the magic that made British Hurricane so good, and it made it much harder to turn British Hurricane into London Spitfire to not have those two for at least most of the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think Sparta was a massive part as well. Danid individually. I think that roster just built up so much synergy going into it. Transitioning to the Overwatch League was difficult enough if you took that core 6 and that coaching unit. Personally, I think keeping both Shax and Sparker, though, were great moves, and I'm sure you will agree. But heading into Overwatch 2 with 5v5 on the horizon, I just want to focus a little bit for a microsecond on the remnants of this Spitfire roster from this season. So, what do you think about Shax and Sparker's performances this season, and what do you think their performances should look like as we head into Overwatch 2 and Season 5?
I think there's a little bit of a conception that Shax fell off this year, but I don't think that's entirely Shax's fault. I think that Shax was having a little bit of trouble this year synergizing with our tank line, and that made it a lot more difficult to pull off a successful Tracer, because as we've seen since like the time of Apex Season 4, ever since Gesture and Profit, right? Like
Yeah.
main tank Tracer synergy has been integral to an effective fast attack. And that's what Gesture and Profit brought to the table. And I don't think that Haddy and Shax managed to get that together very quickly. It was a little bit cleaner with Haddy and Sparker.
Yeah.
And while they are both very good DPS, we are going to have to recruit more on London Spitfire because they've got a somewhat limited pool between them. It's mostly hit scan. Notably, though, Shax does have a very good Farah, so that's always in the back pocket.
Yes, it
But we're
does, yeah.
definitely going to be needing to look for something that's a little bit more flexible as well. And I imagine that most rosters are going to be little bit more stacked on the DPS number side now that they don't have to account for having 2 tanks in at a time.
Yeah, who would be the first name on the list for you to bring in as what probably would likely be a projectile DPS, considering Sparta and Shax do veer more towards the hit stands in the Overwatch, in the general DPS roster?
It's kind of a split recommendation for me for a flex DPS, and it would be either Shockwave, who's my personal favorite, or EQO, both of whom were released by the Philadelphia Fusion recently.
So yeah, with the DPS line, as you said, I think that could be very strong, particularly having, I think, a core 3-man rotation. We've just seen it today. At the time of recording, Dallas's DPS line is going to be monstrous next year. With as if they needed anyone else, they've got Edison. I think Edison was so incredibly underutilized on Atlanta just because of how good Pelican and Kai were. So I'm looking forward to him popping off, and he's got to compete with Doa and Sparkle of all people. But moving away from DPS, and I think it's going to be definitely the role that everyone's got their eyes on for next year. But I think what might make more of an impact is the support, and particularly that one tank. So keeping those DPS means the entire removal of the tank and the support pool. Outside of the British Hurricane, before we do go to the Hurricane, actually, it'll be a 2-part question. We'll start with outside of the British Hurricane. Who do you think from Tier 2 in Europe looks ready to step up to that Overwatch League level?
I'd say without a doubt, Exarath is my first choice. I've been watching this guy for years now. He's been grinding the Tier 2 scene real hard. And critically, Exarath is... he's got a lot of variety in the hero pools of flex support and can also play a couple of main support heroes as well. But rumor on the street at the moment is that a lot of Overwatch 2 rosters are being generated with double flex support in mind.
Yeah.
So you could pick up someone from British Hurricane and Exarath as well, and then have the double flex support from that.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of support, my first name on the list, not just because I think he might be the best, because I think he deserves it the most, is the richest man in Estonia, Mr. Admiral Raptor. I think Admiral has just been so good in Tier 2 for Europe that, at the very least, he deserves a crack at the shot. He's young, he's hungry, he's been around for a while. Exarath as well. I think I remember seeing Exarath. Was he at the Gauntlet in Germany? Is he that old, Exarath? Or that around the scene that long? That one with the one that
Exarath
Astro was on Atlanta at the time. That timeline.
I don't think Exarath was at the Gauntlet in Korea. That was Ding who ended up there.
Right.
With HSL?
Yeah, it might have been, because they won contenders around that time.
Yeah, I think that one was Ding. I think Exarath just missed out on that event. In fact, Exarath's story has been interesting because they finally have a roster that kind of matches their skill. For like the last 2 years, well, not including this one, but 2 years before 2021, Exarath was kind of a shining star on weaker teams.
Yeah.
And was often like one of the real shining lights on rosters that had weaknesses elsewhere.
So just for everyone at home or people that aren't as geared on contenders, what team is Exarath currently on, and how has he recently done in these sort of later contenders months?
Exarath is on Falcons Esports, and it's
yes.
gold medals across the board, really.
Yeah.
They've only lost a single month of contenders out of our 6 tournaments. I believe they lost 1 month to British Hurricane. I think it was June. Aside from that, golds across the board. Basically, they are as dominant, if not more so, than British Hurricane were in 2020.
That's a really sort of strong sentiment. I think that is a good level for everyone to get themselves on, because this Falcon Esports team have just been running rampant through EU. So next to Exarath, maybe in that double flex support, as you said, you've got sort of 2 option slots there left to fill legs from Europe, from Hurricane, either or. Who would you sort of think pair next to Exarath from contenders?
I'd love to see Scarippa there. I'd also love to see Slay from Shoes Money Crew, but
no bias. wearing the
No
wearing the
bias.
merch, wearing the merch.
But I do wonder, like, if Slay's LFT for Owl, I would love to see Slay.
I think he is.
But Slay is also like on the retirement seesaw, you know? Slay is kind of in and out. It's like Slay and Ding, the two poggers Danish flex supports, were like take it in turns to retire and unretire.
Yeah, I think Ding went to Apex. He went to Apex, didn't he? And then came back. Or he might have gone to Valorant. I'm pretty sure he went to Apex and came back though, right?
I'm not entirely sure. I know that they did a stint coaching for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know what other games Ding did.
I've seen Ding. Ding's been around for absolutely ages though. So Slay and then Sky Reaper from British Hurricane as well. Yeah, Sky Reaper's been really.
I think Sky Reaper would be my first choice, just because it's obviously an easy move to bring up people from British Hurricane. Though I do wonder if London will be a little bit reticent about doing a British Hurricane promo after this year's debacle.
Yeah. So we've looked a little bit into contenders and we'll look a bit more, but we're in this sort of point where hopefully the way this video gets scheduled, and specifically at the time of recording, there is so much EU talent left on the market that has been dropped from Overwatch League teams. Unfortunately, Funny Astro has just walked to the Gladiators. Would have loved to see him on the Spitfire. There is FD God left, who might go back to Paris, might not, but like particularly looking at the DPS, particularly looking at the non-DPS roles, looking at those tanks and those supports again, ignoring the leaks, anyone from Overwatch League that you think is a steal, is a must-have for the Spitfire, who's top of that list, who's maybe sort of in that sort of 45th late round that you think could be a diamond in the rough for them?
Like I mentioned Shockwave before, Shockwave is my number one pick for Spitfire. I think Shockwave is an absolute monster.
Yeah, he's a nut.
And I think they were super underutilized on Philly just because they couldn't get there in time with a visa to scrim. And obviously the other big boys that you want to look at FD God and Poco. But I think both of them are much more likely to be going to Paris. Like, I don't think Paris would have dropped Vestola if they weren't planning on maybe trying to grab Poco.
Yeah.
Because it's no surprise that Poco is the best French player around at the moment.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
like that's the big ruby in the crown of the Paris roster to be able to grab Poco.
The creme de la creme, right? Like literally the creme de la creme. I believe that's a French saying in itself. So
Only God's also floating around, and
you are a big Oni stan. Big Oni simp.
I am a big Oni stan, but I don't know if there's room for him on the London roster with both Shax and Sparker there already.
I think just from Oni's hero pool, he had a rough stint on Dallas, obviously, but I think he did fine on Paris. I would say for sure that Naga, I think, stood out a little bit more in my opinion. But I think you do just make a good point that Oni, Shax, and Sparker, just, you know, the Spider-Man meme of just the whole...
Yeah.
It would be that, wouldn't it? It'd just be Tracer, Widow. If there's ever a meta, if we go into Overwatch 2 and all projectiles just get deleted from the game, then that's the best three in Europe for sure. Those first two rosters, what were your thoughts on them shifting from Korean to Europe and all that sort of stuff? But let's start out with we'll go for your thoughts on the first two iterations of the Spitfire.
I was actually a London Spitfire fan from the beginning because of their roster. I didn't really care about geolocation at all. Like, I wasn't going to go to London to watch a game, but I was a huge fan of Korean Overwatch, and Prophet is without a doubt my favorite player ever, my number one MVP.
Same.
And also Fury is my favorite tank player ever. So I was very happy with that season 1 roster, and of course I went on to win it, which felt pretty good. I didn't even mind that season 2 was a bit of a damp squib from from a perspective of how poorly London dealt with the GOATS meta, but I think that might have been more of a coaching issue because London have a really weird thing where they won the league and then they blew up their backroom.
This year, like, do you think they did the right job in only keeping Shax and Sparker, or was there anyone else on that roster or in that coaching staff that they dropped that you thought you could have had a second crack at the whip?
It's a bit of a convoluted answer. In an Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 1 scenario, I would have kept Molfig.
Mm.
But
agreed.
London know a lot more than me about what a
Overwatch.
tank line is going to look like next year.
There
So
won't
I
be a tank
can't
line. There'll just be a
blame
tank.
people too much for dropping tanks when I don't know what is going to be required of a tank line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just getting someone. The same with I made this point earlier about Majed, right? Just having someone that's willing to grind the game and learn it and be coachable and adjust, I think is going to be absolutely huge. So getting someone in that is ready to just be almost molded, I think is going to be great. Molfig still could have been that, to be fair, but maybe they thought that he just wasn't quite flexible enough onto the main tanks, for example. So, who knows? Who knows? Okay, so I think we've gotten already. This interview's been chopped and changed. I can't quite tell, but it's been probably 15, 20 minutes. So we're getting towards the final question here. And before we go off, before I give you the chance to obviously promote yourself and say some final words, give me some spice, give me some sauce, give me a spicy prediction about Overwatch 2. Maybe a hero becomes OP, and give me a hot take or leftward signing you think the Spitfire could make.
Okay, hottest take I have: Spitfire sign Ball/Chasm from where is it at the moment? I think he's on. Oh yeah, he's on. Oh yeah,
The
they signed
avoided ball? Tractor Kid?
They signed Tractor Kid from. Oh yeah, they signed the Ball specialist, and Ball as a tank who's used to playing alone without help is just a bit of a rogue mercenary in the jungles of London. Absolutely dominates in a one tank meta.
I could actually, it's not that crack pipe, which is the crazy thing, because Ball, I've always said Ball doesn't synergize with any other tank in the game. If he goes into Overwatch 2 in this state, I think Ball could be really strong in Overwatch 2, and who better than one of the best balls in the world? I think it's unfortunate because whilst he is probably one of the better balls in the world, he was really good at all the techs, and they kind of removed a lot of the tech from his kit. So, okay. Little bit of a bump in the road tech-wise, but we are back. And funnily enough, that's basically just going to be more towards the end of the interview. Thank you so much, lads, for coming on. This was a nice chat, a good reminisce, a bit of a laugh, a bit of a joke, and some good insight into European contenders' talent as well. I just one last question before you go. Let's give you a bit of a fantasy reality. You have an unlimited budget, and you need two tanks, you need 2 supports, and you need 1 DPS. You can do Overwatch League, you can do Tier 2. The only premise is that they can't be from the Eastern regions. They can't be Korean, they can't be Chinese. We will allow North American talent at the exception of American Tornado. So you can't get anyone from AT, China, or Korea. Who are your first 5 on the list? And they sign just no questions asked. Like, you present them a contract, and then there you go. Who's your 5?
So no American Tornado. That's
Nope.
all their alumni, right?
Yes, anyone that's been on an American Tornado team, because they are obviously all currently in contention to be signed by Florida or Atlanta. So,
all right.
Anyone else from North American or European contenders, or in Overwatch League that's currently a free agent. They have to be a free agent in Overwatch League. Let me add that as well. 2 tanks, 2 supports, 1 DPS.
I am 2 tanks,
2 supports, 1 DPS.
You just want 2-2-2. Oh no, I need 1 DPS to sign alongside Shax and Sparker, I see.
Yeah.
So my tanks are Lolsish and Poker.
Yep.
My DPS is Shockwave.
Yep.
And my supports are Exarath and Scarippa.
And then let's just throw in a main support just to round out the roster just in case.
I would grab Admiral.
Grab Admiral, yeah. Makes sense, okay. I think, to be honest, I agree with that. I think that's nothing too spicy, nothing too ambitious. I think all those are very, very realistic, and I really like.
I was going to put Ball on all 5 roles, but I didn't know if that would pass muster.
Just give him all 5 PCs. Just let him go
exactly. Just have him multi-blocks the entire league.
Fisher wanted to do that on the Gladiators. You could tell he really wanted to play all 5 roles. You could definitely tell he wanted to, but unfortunately, they're not. It's not like League of Legends where you can play Yumi with your feet and you can play ADC with your hands.
Yeah, I've got my Sona PC set up in the background.
Yeah, literally. Unfortunately not. But once again, as I said, it's been great having you on. It's been fun chatting to you as always. So I'll give you the floor for the next minute and a half. Feel free to promote yourself, promote contenders, whatnot. Say thank you, say shout out to anyone. Who knows? There you go. The floor is yours for promo.
I don't just flame London. I flame everyone. If you want to see me flame people specifically, you can check out my Overwatch League Lowlight series on YouTube, where I go in and I VOD review a game and I show you all of the stupid things that our players do so that you can feel that you are just among mortals when you watch Overwatch League games. Trust me. One episode of Lowlights and you feel like you could be in Overwatch League. And I also stream ranked, so you can see how bad I am myself and how inappropriate it is that I flame people at twitch.tv/Legday Gaming.
Yeah, do you have that in the intro? Luckily, so I said I have given you the Twitch plug in the intro as well, so you get a second one there. If you guys want to see me in Legs Rank games as well, then I also appear on his streams from time to time. Potentially, Carrie getting a bit cracked on the Tracer. Profit impression sometimes, but no, it's all right. I think eventually I'll get to a point where I'm delusional enough to call my streams like the Fletter of Diamond. That is the goal.
That's pretty delusional, man.
Yeah, imagine doing that. Oof. Could never be us. But nonetheless, yeah, I also recommend, if you guys are more fan of the slightly comedic content, Bar Lowlights. Legs does a great series, which I've looked at a couple of times script-wise for Overwatch League Planet, where he narrates anything from a Chengdu player completely griefing it on Wrecking Ball to Pelican getting dumpstered in an Echo 1v1 on 150 ping.
As basically budget David Attenborough. So yeah, it's an interesting concept.
Budget David Attenborough. If David Attenborough had sort of smoked like 50 more cigarettes and aged like and rescinded like 20 years in age, I think you're basically on for the impression. But yeah, that's going to be it. We'll end it here on sort of a light-hearted note. Once again, it's been great having you on. If you guys are new around here and you're just clicking on the video from either me or Legs in the link, then we've got so much good stuff on Esports News UK in a multi-range of esports: League, Valorant, Overwatch, as we get into Overwatch 2, Dota, Sim Race, and anything. If it goes on our little island, then it is going to be covered here on the Esports News UK YouTube channel. If not, it will be on the official article blog website as well. That's going to be it. That's it from me. Once again, my name is Jace, and I've been here with Legday for this interview. I will see you guys next time. Take care. Bye bye.